Welcome, Saturday morning. Thank you for showing up. This wonderful event, Conservative Political Action Conference, has been reinvigorated, don't you agree? With emphasis on the word conservative. Now, we are here today not because we're Republicans. In fact, many of us are here in spite of that fact. We are here today because we're losing our republic, and we are the Sunshine Patriots who intend to secure it. On December 23, 1776, when it appeared the American Revolution was lost, the Continental Army was losing its recruits. Disease and frostbite had spread among the ranks during the coldest winter in memory, and the much larger and better trained British force was in hot pursuit. Having defeated the Continentals in New York and chased them through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, General George Washington was preparing for what might be the final battle of the American Revolution. And he turned to a man who was encamped with him, Thomas Paine. And he ordered that Thomas Paine's words be read to the remaining troops. And in part, those words were these: "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated." 3 days later, the Battle of Trenton, the Continental Army won a stunning victory over the Hessians. It was a small battle. George was there, right here. You're looking pretty good. A little like Nancy Pelosi, I think. Now, it was a small battle, but it made all the difference in the world. It was a victory that resonated throughout the colonies and swelled the Army's ranks with new recruits. And what followed was a very long war, a war that lasted 8.5 years. But it was well worth it. This is the tradition in which we come to CPAC this year, a tradition in liberty. But now we have a president who rejects this tradition. Let me say this to you, Mr. Obama. You may have a pen and you may have a phone, no doubt an Obama phone, but we have the Constitution of the United States. And we, not you, we own that Constitution, we own this country, and you, Mr. Obama, do not have any legitimate authority to fundamentally transform what does not belong to you. Now, 6 months before the Battle of Trenton, the Continental Congress in Philadelphia adopted the Declaration of Independence. And that declaration stated in part a list of the grievances against the king. They wrote, "The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. So let me today submit to a candid world the short list of repeated injuries and usurpations committed by this president, the would-be king Barack Obama. Mr. Obama, you have violated the separation of powers, which is the core of our constitutional system, to empower yourself and impose your radical agenda by fiat and regulation in defiance of free elections and against the will of the people. Mr. Obama, you have seized unto yourself legislative power granted to Congress alone by ignoring laws, rewriting laws, and making laws, and then boasting about your usurpations. Mr. Obama, you have unilaterally appropriated monies to fund your radical agenda in violation of Congress's power of the purse. Mr. Obama, you have contravened Congress's authority over immigration and naturalization, eviscerating existing immigration laws and American sovereignty, endangering the well-being of the American people, in blatant pursuit of self-serving political agendas. And may I add here, we are not a nation of immigrants, we are a nation of citizens. A nation of immigrants who become citizens. But we are a nation of citizens, and I am sick and tired of the American citizen being demeaned and treated as a second-class citizen, while anybody who crosses the border is treated as the most virtuous human being on the face of the earth. Mr. Obama, you repeatedly defied the Senate's confirmation power over your appointments, requiring intervention by the Supreme Court to stop you. Mr. Obama, in coordination with the previous Senate Majority Leader, you have poisoned the independence of the judiciary by appointing scores of radical activists to lifetime judicial appointments at the district and circuit court levels to ensure your unconstitutional actions are everlasting. Mr. Obama, you have repeatedly evaded the Senate's role in the adoption of treaties, which require two-thirds approval, by refusing to submit such arrangements for consideration, calling them executive agreements. Running out of breath. Mr. Obama, you've shown nothing but contempt for the Bill of Rights, including the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Ninth, and 10th Amendments. Mr. Obama, you have shown nothing but contempt for private property and free market capitalism, evidenced by, among other things, your nationalizing the internet, the banks, the student loan industry without any constitutional authority. Mr. Obama, you have nationalized and destroyed the greatest private health care system on the face of the earth to the great detriment of tens of millions of American citizens. Mr. Obama, you have recklessly destroyed the fiscal well-being of this nation with wild spending schemes, driving up the federal operating debt to $18.5 trillion and unfunded liabilities to over $100 trillion, thereby threatening the liberty and prosperity of future generations and the survivability of this country. Mr. Obama, you have directed federal departments and agencies, such as the EPA, to unleash thousands of regulations, which you concealed until after both of your presidential elections, which had driven millions of Americans out of work, shuttered thousands of businesses. And you have pursued economic policies that have driven the median income of Americans down and forced millions of people onto food stamps, Medicaid, and disability insurance. Mr. Obama, you've used the office of the presidency in language and actions to divide and balkanize the American people on race, gender, age, and income, and excite jealousies, animosities, and hatred for political advantage. Mr. Obama, while massively increasing domestic spending, you have showed contempt in pursuit of policies which undermine our military personnel and readiness and the security of this nation. And Mr. Obama, you have failed to take the necessary and effective steps to confront Islamic Nazism and increasingly belligerent regimes in communist China and fascist Russia. And you have undermined our friend Israel to the detriment of our security. You have undermined our friend Israel while appeased our enemy in Iran. Now, there's a lot more. But my time is limited. I need a few minutes for the Republicans. At the end of the Declaration of Independence, they wrote, "In every state of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. And we have voted and voted for change, to change him, to change what's going on in Washington. But unlike our founders, who had no alternatives, we do. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you the hour is late. It's very late. And the Republic is slipping away. I'm not running for office. I don't have to put smiley faces on tyranny. And in the face of this growing tyranny, is it too much to ask the Republican Party, its leaders, its chairmen, its operatives, and its consultants to defend us, to defend the Constitution and the Republic? Is it too much to ask the Republican Party to embrace conservatism, Reaganism, capitalism, and constitutionalism? Is it too much to ask the Republican Party to reject crony capitalists and the statist media? Is it too much to ask the Republican Party to offer a real alternative to big, centralized, iron-fisted government? It's time to remove the old bulls and bring in the patriots. No more excuses, no more whining, no more lying to the electorate to get elected. No more crony deals with the U.S. Chamber of Crony Capitalism. It's time to represent the people. Ronald Reagan spoke at CPAC several times. In fact, CPAC was founded to promote Reagan and his presidency, 1973. President Reagan was not accepted by the GOP establishment. I know this because I worked in his campaigns in 76 and 80, and I worked in his administration for 8 years, which none of the present leadership of the Republican Party ever did. In fact, Reagan was opposed by a prominent family who seeks to occupy the White House for the third time. The only dynasty I like is the Duck Dynasty. Reagan was an outsider, and he argued in front of CPAC for a new Republican Party. He saw that the establishment had lost its way, that it was not connecting with the American people, that it could not be counted on to promote and defend our fundamental principles. He took on a sitting Republican president of the United States, and the establishment was furious. and they were hell-bent on defeating him in 1982. And all of you, conservatives now, like conservatives back then, were demeaned. In fact, George Will referred to the conservatives who backed Ronald Reagan as kamikazes. Well, George, the kamikazes are back. Even here, we have putative Republican presidential candidates who have massively expanded Medicaid and the federalization of local education, and that's what Common Core is about. Yet they want you to believe they're conservatives. And while Reagan signed the 1986 amnesty bill, and they'll tell you this time and time again, he would have had the good sense to see that the establishment of both parties reneged on their commitment to secure the border, and he wouldn't have been fooled twice, as he wasn't fooled twice on abortion. Yet we have putative Republican presidential candidates who demean the American citizen, referring to us as essentially lazy and racist, themselves rejecting the belief of American exceptionalism, insisting that the nation owes its current and future greatness, if not existence, to uninterrupted, massive waves of low-skilled and unskilled aliens from the third world. This has never been the American experience. Immigration is to be managed, limited, gradual, to allow for assimilation and Americanization. You see, Mr. Bush, we love our country too. There are also those in the Republican establishment who claim to believe in smaller, limited government. Yet they vote repeatedly for omnibus spending bills, for continuing resolutions and debt ceiling increases. And when it comes to using the power of the purse to stop Obama's unconstitutional acts, or to undo such monstrosities as Obamacare, they insist that keeping every corner of the federal government open is more of a priority than defending the American people and the Constitution. And then they preemptively blame themselves if there's a government shutdown. The fact of the matter is, much of the federal government never shuts down, except on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday holidays. But much of the federal government doesn't shut down, including the so-called non-essential parts, whether they're funded or not. And I see that as part of the problem. The Republicans said that if we gave them the Senate, along with the House, they'll do great things. They've done nothing. They do their fan dances. They think we're entertained by them. We're not. Obama and the loathsome Harry Reid run circles around them. Harry Reid, one of the most despicable, dumbest men to ever be leader in the Senate, running circles around the Republicans. That's what happens when you have no principles, no strategy, and no guts. It's time for the Republican Party to reinvent itself. It's time for a new Republican Party, as Ronald Reagan said. A conservative party. A party that offers the American people and stands for individual liberty. A party that stands for family and community. A party that stands for growth, success, and opportunity. A party that stands for security, national security and border security. A party that stands for the rule of law and not the rule of men. A party that takes the Constitution, including the Bill of Rights, seriously. A party that takes our principles and message to the American people. For those of you who are 45 years old and younger, you've never had an opportunity to vote for a conservative president. You've never experienced the excitement. Well, we're here to change that. And my generation owes you the chance to elect a conservative as president and begin the long road back to republicanism and liberty. That has to begin here. It has to begin today. I keep hearing people say we need to unite all wings of the Republican Party. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to nominate a conservative for President of the United States, and I don't much damn care how we do it. And you young people, like the rest of us, you deserve a president who is as great as the American people, not a president who despises them. I close with 2 words. Kill ISIS. God bless you all. God bless you all. Thank you.